Hello, in this episode I show you how to get good prints from a lab or from your own printer. Bonjour mesdames et messieurs and welcome to episode 56 of my photography, Lightroom and Photoshop tips. My name is Serge Ramely. I am a French photographer living in Paris and welcome to my podcast. Last week I showed you how to shoot night photos. Actually my best tips on shooting night photos. This week I'm going to answer some questions I get a lot about printing. Here you can see a print that I did on mpix.com, which is a company that Scott Kelby, a friend of mine, recommended me, and I'm pretty happy with the print, and I'll show you how I prepare that print, which came out really good on my computer. And here's another one, a black and white I did with them. So basically the idea, I'm going to show you how to print with a lab and how to print the best with your own printer at home and give you my best tips about that. So let's get started and let me show you how I do this. Okay, in this short tutorial I'm going to give you some of the things that have worked well for me to print. That's a question I get a lot of people that want to print at home on their printer or that want to print into a lab, and I'm going to give you a few tricks over the years that I found worked well for me. So here I am. This is a photo I just finished retouching, and by the way, if you want to know how I did and retouched that photo, I have an episode on my YouTube channel. You can see exactly how I did that photo. And if you want to go to my YouTube channel, well, it's pretty easy. You can just go to my website, which is photosurge.com, and if you go at the bottom of my website, in the footer on the bottom, you can see here there's a YouTube channel. When you click on it, you will come to this page, which is my YouTube channel, and there you have all my videos. There's over 56 free videos. And if you click on load more, you will find probably somewhere around here, this one. That's the video, dynamic range increase, how I created that photo. Anyway, so back to the photo. So here I am. As I showed you, I did a big print of that photo. And now, once I'm finished retouching it, I'm going to do a special retouch for the photo. I'm going to do two things. Now, as you know, it's different, of course, when you print from home than you print from the lab. But there's two things that I do on both of it. The first thing that I do is that first I'm going to create a copy of all that I've done so far. Meaning, you see here there's a whole bunch of little adjustment I did to the photo. That's the original without so much retouching. And that's with all these layers, okay? Now I want to have a layer that's going to take into account all I've done so far. So for this, I press Command Alt Shift E. And that's going to create I press it twice, but that's going to create one. Let me take this one out. That's going to create one layer that has everything that I've done so far, not one layer, okay? Now, there's two things I'm going to do on the photo. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sharpen it. Why? Because one thing I noticed when you print photos, it kind of softens the photo. So when you sharpen the photo, what happens is, what I do is I over sharpen it just before printing so that I have a really tight, sharp photo. So let me zoom in a little bit so you see a bit more what we're doing. And so the filter that I use for that is filter sharpen on sharp mask. Why am I using on sharp mask? Because it's the latest one from from Adobe, sorry. And this one is supposed to be one which is the most powerful. Now, this is a very high resolution file, and the way I sharpen it is always with a radius of around, 1 pixel basically. And then I really over sharpen it. I don't know if you can see in the video, but this is the before. Okay, now look at the trees, and this is the after. Okay, 162, it's a lot. This is not something I would put on a web. This is just for the printer, okay? It's over sharpened. Okay, now let's call this sharpened. That's the first step. The second step, once I have really sharpened the photo big time, is I'm gonna brighten it up. Why? Because you see, when you watch a photo on screen, you have the light coming from the screen. When you print it on the paper, there is no light behind the paper. As a result, your prints will always be darker. Now, what I do is I just add a curve on my stack of layers and I play around with it. First, I'm going to darken it to see, because that's how the print is going to look like. It's going to look like this. Do I want this? No. So I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to make it a bit brighter. And it's going to come out like this. It's gonna come out like this. So you over sharpen it and you make it a bit too much brighter, even for your eyes. And usually it's gonna come out right. But that's the first thing. That's preparing the file. Now, let's say you want to print at home. Now, of course, if you want to print at home, you need to get a good printer. That's the first thing. I recommend Epson, but I know Canon has great printers too. The second thing is buy paper that have profile. What does that mean? If you go into a shop that sell photo stuff, you can find paper, and there's a brand that I use, but I'm sure Epson also has it. It's called Hilford. Hilford have papers with profile. What does that mean? A profile basically is a little conversion table that has been done for the papers they sell you and for your printer, unless you have a very cheap printer. But if your printer is a bit good, it should be on there. And the way it works, so you go to support and you go to printer profile. The paper I usually buy is called the gallery. Now you have to create an account there, and I did create one account, so I'm going to put on pause and log in. Okay, now I'm logged in. It's totally free. You just have to create the account. I go to accept, and then you choose your paper. The paper that I buy often from them is called the gallery paper. Okay, and then I'm going to take, for example, the Epson, and I'm going to take one of my favorite Epson printer, the 3880, which is, and then I'm going to go for the I don't know, for the gold fiber silk sheet or whatever. It's written on the paper you bought. The gold fiber silk sheet is going to be written on it. Okay, once you've done that, you just click on download, and that's going to download a little zip file. Okay, now I've already downloaded the zip file, so here it is on my Finder. The zip file is, it's here. Paper profile. So this is a zip file I downloaded. This is a zip file that I extracted, and there is two files. There is a README file, which I'm going to double click on. And the README file is very important. It's going to tell you where to put your that profile you just download. So for every system, it's going to tell you where to put it. I'm on macOS Lion, and on macOS Lion, it says that you have to go to Library Colors Profile, but that library folder is hidden in OS Lion, and it says you have to hold down the Option key to get it. So let me show you how that works. Simply, you go on to Go. Let me go back on the Finder. Here I'm on the Finder. Go, and you see if I press the Option key or the Alt key, Library appears. So now I go on Library, okay, and it says to go to Color Sync Profile. And there I've already put the file. So all this instruction is in a README file. Once the file is there, if you're on Lightroom, you need to restart Lightroom. If you're on Photoshop, you need to restart Photoshop. Just make sure you have a paper that has a profile and that your printer is on there. So it's important to have a nice printer, yeah, just a good printer. So anyway, once you've got the profile installed, then I'm going back to Photoshop. The profile is installed per the instructions. And then I go to File, Print. Okay, well, let's put it this way. All right, now the paper, I'm going to scale to fit to media. Anyways, there is some margin on the paper, so we need to change the paper. And anyways, as I'm using, I'm on a Lightroom, I don't have the right thing, but I just want to show you the important part is the color management. Let's say that my printer would be on, then of course I could get this correctly installed and make sure there's like no margin. But let's say, okay, you have set up your paper so that you have no margin, because I usually print with no margin. And then the next thing you do is color handling. Make sure you have two choices. Printer manages color. What does that mean? That means it's the printer who's going to manage your color, and that usually doesn't give a good job. You choose Photoshop manages color, and then you go here in the printer profile. And if you remember the file name that we just downloaded from Hilford, was something like IGG, and it must be somewhere there in all the profiles. Where is it? Where is it? It must be somewhere. Here it is. Hilford, blah blah blah. That's the file, for Epson 3880. So that's the ICC file we downloaded from the Hilford. Okay. I just clicked on that, and then you just click on print, and this is how you can get the best print. Now make sure, of course, your Epson is there, but as I said, I don't have any printer connected, so that's not working at all. So that's how you would do it from Photoshop. Now in Lightroom, I have the same photo open in Lightroom, and I'm in the print module. I'm ready to print this one. Okay, I added a border there, but that's just for the sake. So then make sure that on print job it goes to printer. I usually leave print resolution at 150, print sharpening, I put it on standard. And then color management, same thing. Managed by printer, no, I want other. And when you go to other, here we go, we have the profile that I just installed. So I'm gonna take that and click OK, and then print. Okay, now same thing. The sharpening, if you don't have Photoshop, well, it's a bit hard to do the step of sharpening. You can just do the sharpening in Photoshop. In Lightroom, you can just go to the develop module and zoom in. Now this is the one that's already sharpened, but I would go in there and I would just get sharpening like, you know, somewhere around like 100 or 120. I don't do that because it's going to be too much. I've already done it. But I would just sharpen that. That's in case you don't have Photoshop. And then I would go back to the print module. And then you choose that and you're just ready to go. Now, for the fact that the photo is going to be darker when you print, you have a print adjustment. So you can just select that and just add a bit of brightness. Now you don't think any preview on the screen. So I usually add about plus 30 brightness and about plus 14 of contrast. That's what I've been using. And then click on printer and you print. So you print with the right profile and you just add a bit of brightness and contrast, because you will always be disappointed on your photo if you don't brighten up and you don't sharpen it a little bit. Okay, so that's how you print on your printer. That's just things that have worked for me. Now, I very little do that. Now what I do most of the time is I print with a lab, and for that, well, it's a different story. Or I don't need any profiles to download, because that's the problem of the lab. All I do is I go to edit, convert to profile, and I make sure that my destination space is sRGB, because sRGB is the profile that is being used by most labs today. So I converted the photo to sRGB, which basically got all the layers into one, flatten the image, and then I go to File, Save As, okay, make sure the embedded color profile is sRGB, and now I'm going to use JPEG, and I'm going to put this on desktop, and I'm going to click on Save, and quality I always put 10. You can put 12, but it's going to make very big file for nothing. All the exhibits I've done over the last 8 years, I've always used 10 as a quality of JPEG, and it makes smaller files and it's still perfect quality, and you just, you know, it's great printing. So just make sure first, anyway, you did the sharpening and you did brighten up, because same thing, even if you go to the lab is going to print, you know, on paper, and paper is darker than screen, so it will look darker. So that's the tricks how I've been using to make big prints. And it's worked for me. I've done a lot of exhibits and I never really had troubles. Of course, you know, I've always had a bit of trouble on printing on my own, because, you know, sometimes I don't get the margins right and I waste a lot of paper. So now I use most of the time websites to print. In France, I use a website called mabellephoto.com, and in the USA, I use mpix.com. So that's what I do, my friends. And before I leave you, I want to present you one of my best friends who created an amazing tutorial on Illustrator. And I'm selling that tutorial on my website because it's really a great tutorial, and it's somebody I'm going to be working more and more with. He's the one that got me into Photoshop. He's one of the greatest designers that I know on the planet. He has designed logos for amazing companies, people where he's under secret and he cannot say that he did it, but it's international brands that you see every day. He's a very talented designer. He really got me into photography. He's my best friend, and I want to present to you this amazing tutorial. If you're into design, if you're into Illustrator, you must check it out. So here is my friend Calvin Pimon, who's going to give you a little introduction to his great new tutorial called Illustrator Quick Start.
Hi, my name is Calvin Pimon, and I'm a graphic designer. In this tutorial, I will teach you how to use Illustrator even if you've never used it before. I will start by teaching you how to access many fonts, professional fonts that are free of charge. Then I'll teach you how to apply them into an Illustrator document very easily, nothing difficult, nothing complicated. And once you've applied those, I will teach you how to turn that into a logo. Once you've learned how to make a logo, I will teach you how to use that logo in a business card and how to design a business card with the fonts, the typography, and everything that's involved with it. I will teach you how to make different formats so you can have square business cards, horizontal or vertical. Then we'll get into making multiple designs to see what are the possibilities. These using all the logos you've created in the beginning. Once you've created a few business cards, I'll teach you how to make letterhead. Letterhead will be using the same logos you've created to begin with, and all the standards that go with making a letterhead. Many different examples, ghosted images, gradients, use of different fonts, paths, how to edit text and manipulate line spacing, and everything that you will need to know to create letterhead. You'll see that there are different styles, so you can really mix and match and really get a good understanding. And it's a good way to learn the program by simply doing it instead of having to try to figure out all the technical tidbits. You'll then get to learn how to use some shortcuts that make it very handy and easy to use, and some of the more basic tools so that you can get right started with Adobe Illustrator CC.
I hope you're going to check out Kelvin's tutorial on Illustrator. He's an amazing artist, and I think you will learn a lot. If you're into design or into Illustrator, you got to check it out. Okay, I have this special discount going for this training. You can get minus 50% using the coupon called Kelvin. You just put Kelvin on checkout and you will get 15% off this full tutorial. Really check it out. It's really good. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next week.